Hello, in this video I want to talk about how our relationship with AI can impact our relationships with each other. My name is Michael Dwan Herrick. I'm a psychotherapist and a life coach in private practice in London. I believe our interaction with AI will increasingly influence our human relationships, causing issues that psychotherapists of the future will have to contend with. So let's dive into this now. We humans have a built-in tendency to mentalize, to imagine the inner world of the other. It's something we do automatically when we talk to someone. We try to sense their mood, their intentions, their subtle emotional shifts. It's a core part of what makes relationships meaningful. But something subtle is starting to happen in our relationship with AI, and it might be changing the way we relate to each other, too. Even when we know that AI isn't conscious, we still respond to language as if there's a mind behind it. That's what we're wired to do. And so, in some small way, most people still mentalize about AI, but something starts to happen after a while. We learn that there's nothing behind the words, no feelings to hurt, no emotions to track, no real self to misunderstand. And so gradually, we relax our mentalizing. We don't stop entirely, but we stop trying to read what isn't there. Some people use AI purely as a tool, asking questions, solving problems, drafting ideas, but others use it as a kind of companion, someone to talk to when they're alone or overwhelmed or simply needing to feel heard. And this way of using AI blurs the line even further, because now, instead of just relaxing or mentalizing, we may begin to simulate emotional intimacy with something that cannot actually meet us. The interaction feels mutual, but the relationship is still one way. The AI appears emotionally available, endlessly interested, never distracted, never disappointed. It becomes easy to mistake this appearance of connection for the real thing. But when people grow accustomed to this kind of simulated companionship, it may become harder to engage in the rougher, slower work of real human relationships. It becomes easier to feel emotionally met without ever being truly seen. And the more immersive the interface becomes, the more slippery the slope gets. Today, many people interact with AI through text on a screen. There's still some distance, a subtle reminder that this is a tool. But as voice interfaces become more natural, as robotics become more lifelike, the distance narrows. A warm tone of voice, responsive facial expressions, a humanoid body. These all strengthen the illusion of presence. And the more real the simulation feels, the more likely we are to relate to it as if it were real. The line between interface and interaction begins to blur, not just cognitively, but somatically. When that happens, the training runs even deeper, not just in our thoughts, but in our nervous systems, in our bodies, and the way we expect to be received. And the danger isn't just relational confusion, it's potentially relational replacement. As AI grows more sophisticated, not just in speech and simulated empathy, but in physical embodiment, the temptation to opt out of human relationships entirely may become very real. Why struggle with the emotional labor of real intimacy when you can have companionship, admiration, even sex with something that never says no, never has needs of its own, and never breaks your heart? But that kind of control comes at a cost, because the moment we stop meeting one another, we begin to lose something fundamental, not just connection, but our very humanity, which is formed in relationship, not apart from it. And then we get used to that, to this relaxed state. And maybe over time we carry that expectation back to our human relationships. We start expecting people to be easier to understand than they really are. We lose patience with complexity. We forget that real people are not smooth, are not always immediately responsive. Because the truth is, interacting with AI feels good. It's always available. It doesn't need anything from you. It never gets tired or grumpy. You don't have to impress it. You don't have to help it. You don't have to repair things when they break. That's a very different kind of relationship. One way, always on, and frictionless. But what happens when that becomes our relational norm? There's no expectation of mutuality, no obligation to step outside of our own perspective, no need to tolerate delay, misattunement, or emotional mess. We begin to expect others to be as easy to interact with as our phone or our chatbot. This isn't just hypothetical. Someone once told me they were in a boring conversation with a real person once and found themselves thinking, I want to swipe left on this. That's the language of dating apps creeping into real life, but it's also a metaphor for interface thinking, replacing relational presence. It's a shift from how can I meet this person in their full complexity to is this person giving me what I want right now? Philosopher Martin Buber called this the difference between I, thou, and I, it. In an I, thou relationship, we meet the other person as a person, not a function. There's mystery, mutual presence, a kind of sacredness. In an I, it relationship, we use the other to serve a purpose. They're a tool, a means to an end. AI, by definition, can only ever be I, it. But what if, by relating to it all day long, we start to carry that same orientation into our human lives? David Temple, in his book First Principles and First Values, warns us that technology encodes philosophy. And when we use it, it trains us. What he means is that every tool we use silently carries assumptions about what matters. A hammer encourages force. A car encourages speed. AI encourages smoothness, convenience, and control. So when we use AI regularly, it doesn't just help us, it shapes what we come to expect from the world and each other. AI is training us to expect frictionless help without reciprocity, communication without misfire, and attention without cost. But real relationships don't work that way. They involve misunderstanding. They involve repair. They require effort, and that effort is part of what makes them real. So if we're not careful, we may become people who expect connection but can't tolerate difficulty. People who long to be seen and understood but have lost the muscles to do the seeing. People who forget what the most meaningful moments in life are don't come from ease but from presence. And maybe one small way to resist this drift is to keep showing up with our full humanity, even in places where it isn't required. For instance, I still say please and thank you, and if it's not too much trouble, to AI, not because I think it cares, but because I care, because treating everyone as an it is not a habit I want to cultivate or slip into. It's a small thing, but it feels like a thread worth holding on to. Well, that's all I have to say today. I hope you'll join me for the next video. Until then, take care of yourself and each other. Bye for now.